And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Caroline Rexrode in the house with you on this Tuesday morning.
Intern Caroline, I guess.
Intern Caroline.
Put it to work.
Might as well. Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing all right, yeah. The youngest here wanted to tag along, so claims to have a rant. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
Rexrode.
We will.
See, we got to get you a headset, Caroline, so you can hear the Scott Stapp saying butcher my name.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
It never gets old.
Yeah.
I enjoy it every single time. Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Morning, fellas. Joe, thank you for the Starbucks. Much appreciated, my friend.
Yeah.
Long time ago, I remember being promised it, and I wanted to take you up on it this time. So thank you.
You mean thank you for the unnamed coffee shop? No free ads.
No free ads.
Oh,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of my favorites. It's all right.
I mean, I could probably rant about them at times, but it's fine.
Could you now?
I'm drinking the coffee of the unnamed coffee shop, so it's fine. What is this, Caroline? What do you have here?
I have a gingerbread oatmeal chai.
Oh, boy.
Gingerbread oatmeal chai.
That
Well,
sounds
that's
good.
Yeah.
What'd you get?
What's got about like 8,000 grams of sugar in it? I just got a. Well, it's just a coffee. I was going to say the type of coffee, then we'd know what coffee shop it is, even though Nick's already blown it. It's Pike Place.
It's forgotten
Cream.
now. We're 2 minutes in.
Pike Place, cream, 1 stevia.
That's good.
Yes, yes.
We got a lot to get to on the program today. Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel will be with us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into what will be a massive game for Tennessee coming up on Saturday against Vanderbilt. Obviously, big deal here in our city. So we'll get a lot into that today on the program. Take your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025. Preds get smoked last night in New Jersey. We'll get into that a little bit later in the program as well. We begin with the Tennessee Titans. More aftermath of Will Levis's third straight performance with pretty good football for the Titans on Sunday as they take down the Houston Texans. Brian Callahan addressing the media yesterday, and Joe, he brought up something that we kind of threw out there yesterday of how much of what we're seeing from Levis right now has to do with just a better comfort level between him and Levis and seeing what works for Levis, seeing what doesn't work for him. And Callahan addressed that at the press conference yesterday. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say.
Wild throws from the past kind of disappear. They're very much back. What's changed that those kind of throws have reemerged?
I think there's a comfort level between Will and I in terms of the style of throws. I got a better feel for the things that he throws really well. Using the players the right way for us. You know, we've gotten better at putting those guys in better positions. And then Will's confidence to throw them. You know, we've gotten some great looks. We've gotten exactly what we hoped we would get on some of those long balls, and just really well executed. You know, he's got a lot of confidence right now throwing the ball down the field, and he put a couple of really great throws, which they make him look easy sometimes, but those aren't necessarily easy throws that he made, and he put them right on the money. So more of that we can do, the better. And, you know, if you can find a way to get 7-8 explosives in a game, you're going to put yourself in a pretty good spot.
So that's Brian Callahan yesterday discussing Levis. And, the first part of the answer there, he talks about, look, I just have more of an understanding, more of a comfort level of the type of throws that Levis is really good at. And that's kind of led to some changes that they've made offensively. So some of the things we threw out there yesterday, Joe, seem to be coming to fruition, which is more evidence that we were very smart on this program.
Yeah. Did he just say that because we were talking about it?
I think so.
He probably listened to us and made that comment.
Right.
Yes. Would you bring up real quick? Did you watch Vrabel last night?
I did not see most of it because I was doing Pred stuff, but
yeah,
I did see him talk about Urban Meyer.
So the Urban Meyer was funny there, but there's another part in there where it doesn't have Koharski's question, but they came back from break and it was him responding to, I don't remember what the question was, but it was like, well, let me try to answer that after that very long and very terrible question. You remember that one?
I do remember that one.
Yeah, fantastic. So PK sort of got a cameo last night on the Vrabel cast. Vrabel, as I showed you, I texted him before. I'm like, yeah, what is this? The Mike Vrabel media tour to try to get a head coaching job?
Yeah.
I demanded it to be funny. It was not that funny, but it had some moments.
I did enjoy the Urban Meyer story of the. Who are you? Do I know you? Yeah, I'm the head coach of the Titans. I've worked for you for 2 years also. So thank you.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of love there from Vrabel for Urban Meyer. Huge fan of Urban. I mean, Urban gave him his break, man. Urban gave him his break.
And apparently he forgot about it. But
Yeah. Now, things were going real well for Urban at that point with the Jags, as we all remember. But anyway, back to Levis. Yeah, I mean, look, we're seeing what should happen, and not that Callahan didn't know his skill set, but I mean, there's a lot more subtlety than like short throws and long throws. I mean, there's a lot of different throws in the NFL, and I mean, obviously Levis can, quote, one of my favorite cliches, make all the throws, but yeah, you got to find ways to get the ball downfield. It's just difficult to me with your personnel and your limitations in pass protection sometimes to get that done. But obviously they're figuring that out. And then you get a play like Chig, which I think, as you said yesterday, that's kind of a little bit of a scheme play, and it's obviously a lot of run after the catch, but that's still a huge explosive that you get.
Well, and it makes you wonder, like when you hear things like that from Callahan, what have you unlocked here? Like, what have you figured out? And look, each week's going to be different. I'm sure at some point here, there's probably a quote unquote bad game coming from Levis. Like, maybe not. Like, maybe he's going to roll through the rest of the season and he's just playing really well from here on out. I guess we'll see. So, it's not like you expect perfection moving forward. But if Callahan and Levis are more on the same page in terms of what Levis is really good at and kind of highlighting some of those strengths, what does that mean for this offense as they move forward here? And, quite frankly, it comes back to it, and we'll get more into this in the next segment. But what does it mean for the quarterback discussion, big picture for the franchise? I mean, that's still priority one to figure out for the franchise as a whole moving forward. Like, if you're ever going to get to a spot where you're competing for a playoff spot again and trying to get yourself in the mix in the AFC, well, quarterback's going to have to be a big part of it. Like, you got to get that part figured out. So if it is something that Callahan has kind of unlocked here with Levis, what does that mean for the quarterback discussion overall? That to me is probably the most fascinating part of that.
Yeah. And look, there's obviously some things that are coming together. Coach, scheme, play calling, Ridley, Levis, and all that. I mean, to me, it's still discovery mode for Callahan. Like, consistency is the hardest thing. Everybody talks about it in sports, but it's the hardest thing to have. And so, I mean, to me, I think in some ways he's just like us. Like, hey, let's see if he can do it again this week. I mean, they're going to have plays in that will work. They're going to have scripted stuff, that should work against different looks. I mean, a lot of this is pre-snap too. I mean, that's a big part of this as well, right? Pre-snap recognition at the line, all that type of stuff. It always seemed like Levis has been, a good student of the game and all that stuff. But, the performance, the consistent performance, 3 in a row to some extent, but, can you do 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, it's also fascinating because you look at the defense that they just played, and they gave up 8 sacks. Now 7 of those came in the first half, only 1 in the second half. So I guess some sort of adjustment made by the Titans to not get totally eviscerated in the backfield in the second half.
They're on pace for a record.
They were on pace for a heck of a day out there. But I mean, on paper, Sunday was one of the best defenses that they're going to face moving forward. We talked about the schedule yesterday, right? I mean, you got Jacksonville coming up twice. Cincinnati's defense has been hot garbage all year. You got the Colts. Like, that was one of the biggest challenges on paper that were remaining for Will Levis and this offense, just in terms of the personnel that they're going up against. So now that you look at it, and look, Washington's a pretty good defense that they're going to play on Sunday. But beyond that, I think some opportunity here, if you have unlocked something with a quarterback, maybe to continue to build on that based on the quality of some of the defenses that they're getting ready to see.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the best pass rushing personnel groups. They're going to, I mean, just between, Autry, Hunter, Anderson.
Yeah.
That's part of why people were so high on the Texans this year. You have Stroud and his weapons, and then you have the pass rush, right? And Stingley. But I mean, that's elite pass rushing personnel. Washington is pretty good too. So I mean, they've faced a lot of teams that that are good at that. But yeah, then you get it past that, and you should be able to, protect better. But I mean, I also think that this offensive line has demonstrated the ability to let average pass rushers look really good at times too. So probably worth keeping in mind there.
No doubt about it. Chef Ran on the YouTube chat. By the way, YouTube chat flowing yesterday. We appreciate it. Keep them coming on our YouTube feed. Chef Ran says Levis is growing up. He hasn't arrived, but he's improving. It has been interesting, Joe, to watch some of the discussion on Titans Twitter about Will Levis. Some people who are out, maybe back in. Some people who were in, gloating about how right they were the whole time. It's been interesting to watch.
Yeah. I just, I think it was early on. It might, it's a little bit of an overreaction after 2 weeks to say he's just toast. And after all he did that wasn't good early, it's definitely early to gloat. I think it's definitely early to gloat, but I know people love to do that.
You want some PFF grades real quick from the offensive line that Glennon put out there?
Okay.
All right. J.C. Latham, 29.2.
He did get torched a couple times.
Skoronski, an 87.7.
Oh,
pretty good.
Okay.
Brunskill, 44.4. Radens, a 72.8. And our boy NPF, who had a nice pancake block out there, 29.6. 5 pressures, 3 hurries, 2 sacks.
Okay.
Credited to NPF.
That's what you expect from NPF. Not what you expect from Latham. Apparently the guards are good. The guards are good. The tackles and center are bad, per PFF last game. Okay.
Apparently so.
Interesting.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We're off and running on Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian Callahan was asked yesterday about the future of the quarterback position and how Will Levis's recent play may factor into that. Gave an interesting answer. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, our phone and text line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian Callahan was asked yesterday about Levis, the way that he's played these past few weeks, and what that could mean for the quarterback position as a whole for the franchise moving forward. Had an interesting response. Here's what Brian Callahan had to say yesterday at his press conference.
The quarterback you've seen in the last 3 weeks, if you get that guy, is that a long-term quarterback solution for this franchise?
Yeah, I hesitate to make any proclamations of anything like that, but I've just been really happy with the way that Will's progressed. He's played winning football from that position really over the last 3 weeks, and it's just like to see it continue. And I think there's some things for Will that he can do better. There's a couple of things, just even progression-wise for him, or getting his eyes to the right spot faster, to where he could play really well. He played a really good football game. I think there's another level for him when it comes to finding the completion, taking less sacks. Some of those things were situational. I know one or two of them we were sort of in field goal range, and I was very kind of strictly instructed him to make sure we're being smart with the football, and he's just trying to make sure we didn't take any major losses. So one or two of those, he just sort of runs up in the pocket. But I think everything that he's done, the progression he's shown, the growth that he's shown is really encouraging. And I like to keep it going. And I think there's still, again, another level that we can get to and unlock from him. So
Callahan, not going as far as to say, well, yeah, if he plays like this, this is our quarterback of the future there. Did say he was excited about the way that he's played. Also says he feels like there's more meat on the bone for Levis to go get as he continues to kind of evaluate his game here. What'd you make of that answer from Brian Callahan?
I think as usual, it's funny because first segment we were talking about the Vrabel, Vrabel doing, the Manning cast.
Media darling.
But it's just like, have more fun, Vrabel. God. And again, this isn't like Callahan having more fun, but the contrast between those two in terms of presser and like stuff they'll tell you, it really is incredible, actually. So I mean, look, I just think it was a typical, really, it came off to me just a revealing and also an honest answer from Callahan, which is, yeah, he's playing well. He can still get better. And it all makes sense, because there are still times to me where it's like, that boom, 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 and get it out that you see from like great quarterbacks. It still seems at times a little slow.
Yep.
And with this pass protection, that's a bad concoction, but also, I mean, look, I've taken him at his word on all this stuff. I think we can all see like why you would be excited about Will Levis as a prospect. And he was going into the year, and we all saw him play really poorly in more ways than just having those killer turnovers early. And now you see it looks like it's starting to come together a little bit. And certainly I think we'd all agree that there's another level, of course. I mean, it's not like he's playing at the highest level you can play as a quarterback in this league. And that's the whole idea, is to get to the point where you're really good. That's how you entrench yourself and get that big contract. And I would not say right now that Will Levis is there at all, but I think it's interesting. That's got to be encouraging. If you're a Titans fan who isn't out on Levis, who wants to see it work out between his play, and I think just listening to Callahan talk about it, there's no question that there's progress being made right now.
Yeah, progress being made, and the question is, how much more progress will there be to make? I mean, that's that's kind of what Callahan was getting at, his answer there. Like, it's been encouraging to watch Levis do what he's done the last 3 weeks. Now, how much more room is there for growth in his game, and can he continue to build on what he's kind of stacked together here these last 3 weeks? One texter on the text line says it's too early to gloat on Levis. I'd say it was too early to bash on Levis the way the station has as well. Good Lord. This is from an unnamed texter.
Just the station.
Text line.
Just this station.
It was just us.
Yeah, we were on an island here bashing Levis. I wouldn't take this station as a conglomerate on anything. I'd say we've got a wide range of, but I will say it seems like, it's pretty consistent across the board. That I mean, look, Levis wasn't playing well, guys. I mean, it's like,
it's pretty hard to deny what we were seeing.
Yeah, now, I am with, in general, with the idea of it's just, it was early to know for sure he's not going to work out. Right now, it's early to know for sure he will. I I mean, and at some point, everybody has like a ceiling and some limitations that you can't get over. And he still may have limitations that aren't going to, let him get to where you want him to get. That's absolutely still a possibility. But Dustin, he's going to be a menace back there. At times he is, at times he is a menace. I mean, there's a lot there, but it's just hard to know, exactly like where does the incline end with him, and what does it mean if you actually do give him a clean pocket, and he has that confidence and he has more weapons and all. I mean, it's hard to answer, but at least there is a light, I guess, to use a terrible cliche at the end of the tunnel here, where it's like you could see it being possible.
Well, one thing that I, for one, am glad to see, even as somebody who's been out on Levis, like it looked like it was trending for a while, Joe, where he was just going to get beat down and it was going to be over quick. And these last 3 weeks, I think, if nothing else, there should be a pretty significant confidence boost in him moving forward here that, all right, I can play good football. I can put together a stretch of good games. And whether that means that he's going to long-term figure it out or not, at least this is not just some straight descent down into the toilet. And we're sitting here on November the 26th, and we're having just left and right draft talk because we all know that the quarterback is done at the end of the year. It felt like we were heading that way for a while. Yeah. And to his credit, he is making it more interesting coming down the stretch here. And at least I feel like there's got to be some level of confidence boost that he's had. And I'm interested to see what that translates into the rest of the way here. And again, it's the NFL. Very rarely does it play out like we think it will in terms of the schedule, but he does have a pretty friendly schedule coming up, and just in terms of some of the defenses they're about to be facing outside of Washington this Sunday.
Yeah. And he, like a lot of players at times, I know this series, I haven't lost any confidence. I mean, that's a typical response, but of course you must have lost some confidence, right? I mean, confidence is such a huge part of all this. The mental side of it is more important than the physical side. So it must have been shaken. It looked like it was, and now it looks like it's starting to surge again. So, it's just like you just have to keep going with it. But yeah, like he still threw a pick six Sunday. I mean, let's not forget that, right? I mean, and that's the type of mistake. It didn't cost them the game. It was a crazy game for them to win with all the things they did wrong, including that. But they could have, and then if that play loses them the game, it would be a different discussion. All the other things that happened afterward, now including the big play that he and Chig made, but still, like the W or the L also really colors the discussion.
There's no doubt about that. And look, I just rattled off the PFF offensive line grades in the last segment. I mean, there's no question that the tackle play in particular in that last game was not very good. But in that answer Brian Callahan just gave, I mean, he didn't go like out of his way to call out Levis, but he talked about it. There's some sacks that are on him. Like that's a part of the progression that's going to have to take place here too, is knowing when to get rid of the ball, knowing when to live to fight another day, and getting out of there and getting rid of the ball quicker than he did. And, it's hard to blame a ton of that on Levis. Like when you got some tackle play that was as bad as it's been pretty much all year long, particularly on the right side. But there's no doubt that, Callahan said it. He's got to improve in that area, taking as many sacks as he is.
Yeah. I'll continue to be impressed with his courage and willingness to stand in.
Yes.
I mean, that's because he does seem to, he doesn't have, it just doesn't seem like he has that eyes in the back of the head thing for example, Bryce Young did in college. I don't know how that's going for Bryce Young now. I do know he's playing better. But if you have that and you're seeing ghosts, so to speak, and you're like looking, your eyes are coming down real quickly at that pass rush, like you have no chance. And that's not the problem with him. But certainly he can get a lot better at navigating a pocket. Again, that's one of those things. How much better can you get at that? I would think that would be something you can improve more than just straight up accuracy throwing the ball. But he's going to get plenty more practice I'm sure of that. The rest of the season, he's going to get plenty more practice at navigating pass rush because it will continue to be coming at him. But like you said, there are some teams that maybe are going to have to pressure a little bit more to get there than some of the teams they've played.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll have more thoughts on Will Levis coming up next. Did not go well for the local professional hockey team last night. They also made a trade yesterday. We'll get into all that coming up as well. So keep your thoughts coming, 615-737-1025. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today for Vanderbilt women's basketball. Commodores taking on Arizona with a 3:30 p.m. tip-off. Pregame show beginning at 3:15. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 94.9thefan.com. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken, the original and iconic hot chicken joint. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Gift card only good for the Tanger outlets in Antioch and inside Assembly Food Hall in downtown Nashville. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. Taking your thoughts on Will Levis, 615-737-1025. Chris on the text line says, guys, I've heard all year long when Levis takes a sack, you guys say he's got to get rid of the ball. But when he's under pressure and throws a pick, you say he needs to take the sack. Which one is it? This is from Chris.
That's
on
what
the
I
text
say.
line.
I say take a sack. I mean, I will say that on the Bears one,
Yeah, take a sack.
rather than the miracle flip, I would definitely say take that sack. I don't know about in general. I mean, look, you don't. It's not binary. You don't have to do one or the other. You know, you can throw the ball away and not take a sack or throw a pick, right?
Yeah. Like, well, I think there's a play Sunday. It's a pretty good example. So he's rolling out to his left, and I think they showed the clock on this, and I think it was Sam Phelan who had a good question about this yesterday too. Like the time that Levis had to throw on Sunday, generally speaking, now there's some exceptions here or there, but generally speaking, it was pretty good. Like you're talking about like 3.5, 4 seconds, which in the NFL, decent amount of time. So one play in particular, he got sacked by Danielle Hunter. He started off drifting to the right, and then he rolled back to the left, drifted out of the pocket to the left, and was kind of scanning downfield, looking, and nothing was there, and he got sacked. And it took like 4 or 5 seconds. It's like, all right, like when you have time to run to the right and then run back to the left and get out of the pocket, might want to get rid of the ball there. Like there's, every play is different. So like there are some plays where taking the sack is the best play. That's part of playing quarterback. Like you got to know when that is and when it's not. And you're never going to get it right 100% of the time. Like Callahan's talked about that. Like there are some situations where you just have to know that taking a sack there is the better play. Now, he also said yesterday in his press conference, like 1st and 10, pretty good opportunity to get rid of the ball. Like if it's 1st and 10, do your best to not take a sack because that's going to ruin your entire drive when you do that. So like it's just figuring out when to take the sack, when to get rid of the ball, and when to, when it's 4th down and 5 and the game's on the line, you got to do whatever you got to do to try to make a play. It's all about timing.
Yeah, and knowing where you're on the field, which Callahan talked about, there was some like do not take the sack here and get out of field goal range,
right?
Stuff, that's communicated. And I mean, look, there are times when the pass rush is on you so fast. Plenty of sacks of Will Levis this year have been any quarterbacks getting sacked on that play.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of the ball, nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, like
you're just going down.
You look up and you're sacked. That's happened to him plenty. And with this protection, there's plenty of other like any quarterback in some of those plays is going to get sacked. Other than like, I guess maybe Lamar Jackson, who did you see the tier tart?
I did.
And I know it's tier tart, so it's like, okay, you figure a lot of quarterbacks could elude tier tart, but he was in so immediately. Like, I mean, I don't know who. I mean, maybe Kyler Murray too.
Did Vrabel offer his perspective on Tier Tart and/or Christian Fulton or anybody else out there last night?
No, he did talk about Derrick Henry.
That's good.
But yeah, no one. Those guys did not bring up the Tier Tart. They played all the hits. Like, oh yeah, the busting with the boys. He talked about cutting your dork off and all this stuff, and Vrabel enjoyed that. But
you got me mid coffee sip there. That almost
sorry.
ended poorly.
Sorry. But yeah, they played the hits. They showed the Ohio State, split the head open thing and stuff like that. But Vrabel, I don't know, man.
It's kind of psycho, huh?
Well, yeah, man. Oh yeah. Well, that was a long time ago. But yeah, headbutting a player with your bare forehead in the player's helmet before the Michigan game. But the Koharski thing, by the way. When they played his, his like, well, let me give you an answer after that long and terrible question. And then Vrabel was like, I think I did elaborate a little bit more than that. Like, oh yeah, you don't want those owners out there to think you're mean to the media, Vrabel.
That's right.
Anyway, on the Levis front, I did want to read this text.
Okay.
Unnamed texter. It says, weird how fast the narrative changes around here. One day we hit Levis, coaches, and GM. One semi-decent day and a win, and it's all different. You can't take the talk serious due to the rapid about face. Look, man, if it'd be great if we could all just sort of be like, hey, I don't know, we'll see, let's wait and find out. But I mean, it would be kind of boring for this job, wouldn't it? I
It
mean,
would.
there are people right now who are like, have been, Levis is the guy, just let him go and we'll figure it out. So like Dustin at Hopkinsville right now he's been waving the flag all year, and there are people right now who are still completely out on him, which is fine. I mean, I don't think we've done a complete about face. He has played better. Is that not true? When you play like he has the last 3 weeks, does that not do something to shift the discussion? I mean, it does for me, but not completely. I'm still very much like, keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's really where I am. To keep doing it.
Well, again, it's, we're reacting to information this season throughout the year, but with the whole picture still in mind. Like, this is still about who is the quarterback for this team long term. Who is the quarterback for this team that's going to be a part of when the stadium opens, that can get this team back into contention soon? And is that Will Levis, or is that answer someone that's not here right now? Be that a free agent, be that somebody in the draft. Like, ultimately, that's what the question was about with this entire franchise heading into the year. And when we get done with this season, that's what the question is still going to be about. And I said it yesterday, as well as he's played the last 3 weeks, I don't really know if there's anything he can realistically do to where we get to the end of this regular season and you're like, yep, that's the guy. Like, I think with as bad as it was to begin the season, I think there's at least going to be a discussion heading into the offseason of, all right, what do you do if you're the Titans? Is it the draft? Is it a free agent? Do you roll back with Will Levis for another year and then try to make a determination after that? But the situation that we described before the year of, is it possible that the Titans would know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Will Levis was their quarterback of the future moving forward after this season? That to me is not a possibility after this year.
Yeah, I mean,
unless he just goes nuts.
Yeah, it's
these last
a
few weeks.
very remote. I guess I'd call it a remote. If he's, you take out the pick six, which is always a great. It's like someone runs for 150 yards. Yeah, but if you take out the 70-yard run, yeah, well, that's a big part of how people have big games. But if you take out the pick six and he played like that the other day and they win, they go on a huge winning streak and he's darn near, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league from here till the end. I mean, the conversation continues to shift. I think then you'd get to the point where you'd be pretty confident he's going to be the quarterback next year.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But
like the long-term answer of, yeah, he's our guy. No doubt about it. I just don't, that's going to be pretty hard to pull off for him this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. But even getting to the point I just mentioned it'd be a pretty good turnaround.
It'd be
from
a big win.
How things were looking, and as Dennis brought up yesterday, maybe that the injury and sitting and watching, how much value has that had? How much has that helped him in all this? Probably some.
Well, you would have to think some, because it's been different since he's come back from the injury. And, maybe some of that is just as simple as like mentally resetting, right? I mean, you've talked about this in the beginning part of the year. It kind of felt like he was putting so much on himself. And, we've talked about the contract. Like, these quarterbacks aren't stupid. They know if they play really well. I mean, you're talking about life-changing money, generational wealth, all those things that come your way if you're playing quarterback at a high level. And that's got to be part of it. And, we brought this up with Corey Curtis yesterday, and he talked about how he just looks calmer out there. And he asked Callahan about that. And Callahan's answer was basically like, yeah, it's a pretty good observation. Like, he's a lot calmer in some of these situations as compared to earlier this season, which I think is serving him pretty well.
Yeah. And there's probably a little bit of like, screw it. Again, you still have to be in control and calling up, but a little bit of like, well, what do?
I got to lose? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the money. And it's also, I mean, look, he is an absolute, he is clearly a very intense competitor, right? And it's his whole life. Very few people get to this level if you're not a high level competitor, but I think he's a little extra than that. He's an extra competitor, right? Which can be good, but also at the quarterback position, sometimes it's like, yeah, don't go take that hit,
right?
Stuff like that. But if you can harness that and use it the right way, then they can be an asset for you.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A rough night last night for the Nashville Predators, and they made a pretty significant roster move yesterday as well. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel will join us coming up at 7 o'clock. We'll get into the college football playoff. and the path in front of the Tennessee Volunteers as they face Vanderbilt coming up on Saturday with him. Looking forward to that discussion coming up here in about 13-ish minutes here on the program. The Nashville Predators last night, Joe, it did not go well. Coming off maybe their best game of the season on Saturday against Winnipeg, certainly their most impressive win of the season. The job was to follow it up. Steven Stamkos said Saturday, kind of been the story of the year. You come out with an effort like they had on Saturday night against Winnipeg, and then they don't follow it up. So now it's time to follow it up. Well, the Predators did not follow it up. They got smoked last night, 5-2 by New Jersey. New Jersey, I think, ended up with 46 shots on goal. Predators had 21. Nico Hischier, a natural hat trick in the second period, and the Preds lose 5-2. They had a 5-minute power play in the third period. So Zach LaRue scores to make it 4-2, so cuts the lead down to 2 goals. He then draws a penalty on Timo Meier. Took a cross check right to the face. It was a major penalty. You had 5 minutes of power play time for the Predators, and it's a major power play. So you could have scored as many times as you wanted to, and that power play was not going to expire. And then you got 1 shot on goal on the 5-minute power play. Just brutal on the power play last night for the Predators. And they find themselves now at 7-12-3. And it's getting harder and harder to envision them digging out of this from the simple standpoint of every time you feel like they take a positive step, the next game shows up and they immediately revert back to some of the bad habits and just the poor play that they've had. And look, I thought they took a major step forward 5-on-5 Saturday against Winnipeg. And then last night, Joe, they played maybe their worst 5-on-5 game of the entire season. And that is pretty discouraging if you're a Predators fan.
Yeah, and you quote tweeted the Stamkos comment after the big win over Winnipeg. Well, can't do, you've got it. But basically, now let's not do what we've been doing, which is having a good performance and then following it up with a bad one. And, well, that's exactly what they did.
Yep. It was brutal to watch last night. And the thing is, New Jersey's incredibly fast. They're, if not the fastest team in the league, certainly one of the fastest team. And, that gave Predators fits last night. They got caught flat-footed a couple times and just got beat on some plays through the neutral zone. And you had it 1-1 after the first period. Philip Forsberg took basically the equivalent of like a fadeaway 3
Hail Mary,
and scored. So it wasn't necessarily like an overly impressive period from the Predators, but it's 1-1 on the road after one period of play, and then you just got totally dominated in the second and third. It was rough to see that last night. Meanwhile, Barry Trotz making another move yesterday. Philip Tomasino traded away from the Predators to the Pittsburgh Penguins, ends up with a 4th-round pick in 2027, which originally belonged to the New York Rangers, acquired by Pittsburgh. So Philip Tomasino out, the Tomasino era in Nashville over. He ends up with 159 games played in a Predators uniform. What did you make of that move and the return of a 4th-round pick in 2027 for the Nashville Predators?
I'm not a huge fan. I don't know. I haven't been a huge Tomasino fan, but I can also just see where he's going to end up getting having a 25 goal season here
playing
soon.
With Crosby.
Yeah. And everybody's going to be like, what in the world? I don't know. I've never been a huge fan, but I get the complaints about, maybe there was some progress, and is that really that great of a return? I don't know. What do you think of the return?
Well, the return to me kind of is what it is. I don't really know what people expected to get for a guy who can't get on the ice and has not really done anything at the NHL level. The response to that, he's a 1st-round pick. I was like, well,
that happens all the time.
That matters to a certain point, and then once you get a little bit deeper into your career, it doesn't really matter what kind of pick you are.
There are 1st-round picks who can devalue to getting nothing back. That
exactly.
Happens.
Could they have gotten more for him? I don't know. Barry Trotz talked to Alex Doherty from the Tennessean yesterday, and basically said he's been trying to move Tomasino for a while. So it kind of feels like this is the best option that they eventually came to. It's a weird case to me because generally speaking, I've not been overly impressed with Tomasino. I think some of the hand wringing that goes on around here about him is a little much sometimes. Now, having said that, if you look at it, he has played a lot on the 4th line with guys that probably don't fit his skill set all that well. and he's never really gotten a long, extended look in the top 6 over the last couple of years here. So there's a couple things on that. Could he have gotten a raw deal here, and it's going to end up looking really bad for the Predators, and he goes somewhere else and looks good? Maybe. Like, I'm leaving the door open for that possibility. One thing I've always said in this discussion that I have to pay attention to, and I don't know exactly what it means, but it's got to mean something. It's 2 coaching staffs and 2 general managers that have looked at Philip Tomasino and basically have come to the same conclusion. And I realize, Barry Trotz and David Poyle are very close, and they're very similar in the way that they think about the game. But John Hines and Andrew Burnett both have basically looked at Philip Tomasino and come to the same conclusion. I don't know that he can help us on a nightly basis. And I have to think that means something.
Yeah.
Does it mean everything? I don't know. But it means something.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the conclusion when they drafted him was different. But
exactly.
But no, I look, I'm with you. I just yes, he could have had better opportunities in theory. But I think he got some chances, and I just, he underwhelmed. And so, again, this is absolutely setting up for him to and look, I hope he does. I hope it clicks for him and he does well. Do you take this? But I'm not surprised that they were trying to move him. That doesn't surprise me that much. Do you take this as not like blaming him, but do you take this as them looking at him as some sort of liability in terms of, beyond just not being good enough on the ice?
Maybe. Look, when Andrew Burnett at the end of last year basically called him out at the end of season press conference.
Big time.
To the point where, at that point, I was like, he's done. He will not be here. So, the fact that it's ended up this way is not at all surprising to me. It's not at all surprising to me that he's now gone and that they're moving on. We're going to find out if this was the right move. The bottom line is, whether it's Tomasino or elsewhere, they need to develop a forward at some point. Go back and look at some of their first round picks over the course of the last decade or so. It ain't good. There's a lot that's wrong. And a lot of those picks, most of them, the general manager who selected them is now gone. So Barry Trotz is kind of on a different slate here, and we'll see. We're still probably a couple years away from figuring out if Igor Surin's any good or Matthew Wood's any good or Tanner Molodike, all those guys. But they got to find a way to develop some forwards. That has always been a problem with this team, and it's got to get better, or you're just not going to have a chance. You have to develop some forwards.
At what point, if you continue to not, is it like there's just something in the guts of what they do that doesn't work?
Well,
you're probably past that point, except you have a new GM.
You got a new GM, but if you continue to not be able to either select the right forwards or develop the right forwards, at some point you got to look at your scouting staff and be like, what exactly are you guys seeing? Because a lot of those guys are the same. It's not all the same, but a lot of those guys have been around for a while, and it's getting close to put up or shut up time with the forward group. You got to find a way to develop some of those players. Joey from Bellevue, by the way, on the text line says, thanks, Joe. I just grabbed a gingerbread oat milk chai from Starbucks.
That's what you have? Gingerbread oat milk?
Yeah.
Gross.
Setting the tone this morning here in Nashville.
Gingerbread oat milk chai. Who would even come up with that?
I don't know what a couple of those words
I actually want
mean.
to taste it. It sounds so ridiculous. Hold on. Did you hear that microphone?
I did.
Oh, my God, that's bad. Oh, what am I doing to my children?
615-737-1025, our phone number. Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel will be with us coming up next. We'll look ahead to a massive game between Tennessee and Vanderbilt coming up this weekend. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Caroline Rexrode here with you on this Tuesday morning. Massive game coming up for Tennessee this weekend against Vanderbilt with an opportunity to get into the college football playoff. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Mike Wilson from the Knoxville News Sentinel. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks for taking time to be with us. We appreciate it. So, Mike, pretty unbelievable in some ways the way that this all came together for Tennessee over the weekend. You get the 56-0 win against UTEP, and Alabama goes down, Ole Miss goes down, Indiana gets smoked by Ohio State, and after losing to Georgia and wondering if you get back in, the pictures opened up pretty nicely here for Tennessee. What did you make of the way this weekend went down?
Josh Heupel must be living pretty right.
Must be.
Is probably the main takeaway there. I mean, you even got as lucky as Texas A&M going down and kind of their path to maybe jumping Tennessee being gone unless they win the SEC. So, I mean, so many things went in the Vols' favor. And I think, you know, it eased maybe the tension for Tennessee fans who were so frustrated at the thought of being left out at 10-2 and a potential Bama 2-loss team getting in. So they're back in the picture like they want to be, but maybe focus on Vanderbilt first because that's a pretty dang good team they're going to play on Saturday.
Yeah. So what is the I mean, obviously Tennessee has really flipped it from losing 3 straight to really just dominating Vanderbilt. But we all know Vanderbilt is a totally different team this year, and like you said, it's a solid football team. What is the confidence level, do you think, of the fan base? And also, how do you look at this matchup between these two teams?
I mean, I think the level for the fan base is they still do see it as Vanderbilt for the most part. It is a better Vanderbilt, but I also think Tennessee would look at the years they lost to Vanderbilt and say, well, that was bad Tennessee. We're back to being good Tennessee now. As far as the matchup goes, you know, Tennessee's kind of been bad in the red zone for most of the year. Like, it feels like they don't do a good job of finishing drives out. This isn't a game where you can do that because Vanderbilt's so willing to do those long drives. They're pretty good in the red zone. They're going to get points out of those long drives, and you're going to have a lot less time to work with. So Tennessee's got to make the most of their opportunities, and that's not really been the thing they've done so far this year. So I'm curious to see how they handle that because Vanderbilt just, from the games I've seen, the numbers I've looked at, does such a good job of controlling the game. I mean, taking care of the ball, time of possession, they're not penalized, make the most of the red zone again. So just, I mean, they control the game the way they want to, so Tennessee can't really mess around with that.
So, Mike, you know, as we sit here approaching the last week of the regular season, how do you view this Tennessee offense and where they are? We know what Sampson has brought to the table running the ball. I think Nico has made some progress as the year's gone along. But overall, how do you view where this Tennessee offense is kind of heading into this last week here?
Yeah, I think everyone else in the offense needs to get Dylan Sampson a really nice Christmas present.
Yeah.
And that is the offense. It's been kind of disastrous at times, and it's just been disgusting at others. There have been signs, mostly against not good teams is probably the concerning part of that. I mean, Nico had some moments against Alabama. He's pretty darn good against Kentucky. He was good in that first half against Mississippi State before he left, but there's just been a lot of inconsistencies there. And it's kind of past that point now to me of saying that's a young quarterback. I mean, that's a guy who has a full season's worth of starts now, has some experience last year. And at a point, it's kind of like, okay, well, when is that going to come together for the products that people talked about him being coming out of high school? To me, the tackles were a massive problem at points. That hasn't been as bad lately. I've wanted to see the wide receivers be better. Maybe that's probably been my focus when I've talked about this offense. Tennessee doesn't have a game breaker. They don't have a Jalen Hyatt. The Jalen Hyatts aren't out there all the time. But there's not a guy to me on that offense that the defense has to really respect and fear. And Josh Heupel's offense kind of needs that. Needs a downfield guy that can really stretch it and push it. And that allows everything else to open up. And, you know, so there's kind of a myriad of things you could point to. The one thing you can't point to is Dylan Sampson just because he's been so awesome.
Yeah, I hear you. Maybe I'm too much of a Nico homer, but I feel like he's gotten better. But
Yeah.
those other elements of the offense, well, like you said, the pass protection's got better too. But I mean, the receiving core, I just don't know that there's, that there's much.
It's a bunch of number twos to me, like
Yeah.
number twos and number threes. Like you're throwing 40-yard downfield passes to Squirrel White in the sideline. That's not a guy who's making a contested catch 50-50 with a taller DB. I mean, there's just not really the guys that you want in that room. And maybe it's Dante Thornton, maybe it's Chris Brazzell, but like those guys haven't become the players that I think everyone thought they might.
Yeah, like those guys here and there, they'll make a big play, and then you just don't see them again. I know it doesn't matter now, but like, do you think Mike Matthews is that guy eventually? Because when I've seen him in brief glimpses, he does look like he's got a lot to offer.
Well, that's kind of been the name, right? It's a 5-star freshman wide receiver, and usually if there is a position a 5-star can play right away, that's a pretty good one. It's not tight end, it's not offensive tackle. There's just some different things that go into it. That's a guy that everyone's wanted to see more, I think. I mean, coming out of one of the bye weeks, that was a big question for Josh Heupel. Hey, is Mike Matthews, did he make the most of the bye week? Is he a guy that you can expect to contribute more now? I thought after seeing him early in the year that he would end up starting in the slot. I thought he gives you more than what you have at that position currently. And that just hasn't transpired. And whether that's a lack of execution on his part, whether it's a lack of trust in the coaching staff, I don't know. But at some point when a position group is struggling, you would think that that's a guy that probably gets more opportunities than he has. Because realistically, going to this year, they were raving about the depth of this wide receiver group, and it's not deep. It's not deep at all. Chaz Nimrod's fallen off the face of the earth. Caleb Webb's not a factor in it. And for some reason, Mike Matthews hasn't been a very big factor in it either.
No doubt about that. And yet still, with all that being said, Mike, they got a chance to punch their ticket to the college football playoff, which if you would have told Tennessee fans before that, or, before the season that was the case, I think every one of them would sign up for that. So what do you make now of that opportunity? And let's say they get the win Saturday and they punch their ticket. Like, how do you view the season? Obviously not knowing how the college football playoff will go, but the job that Josh Heupel does in year one of the 12-team playoff to get them in if they're able to do so.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's known for its defense. It always has been, right?
Right.
Yes. Especially under Josh Heupel. I mean, that's the reason that they're potentially going to the playoffs. That and the schedule fell nicely. The schedule looked really daunting before the year to some extent, but Oklahoma not being good really helped that schedule as a whole. Like that trip to Oklahoma to open SEC play was like, oh, dang. Like that's going to be a tough one for Tennessee to win, but Oklahoma wasn't very good. So that helped, but you have to view making the playoff as a success. And I think with this particular Tennessee team, you're kind of playing with house money in the playoff because you probably shouldn't win a game with this offense in the playoff. I mean, it's just with the caliber of defense you expect to probably see in the playoffs, the way that Tennessee is on the offensive side, you don't expect them to necessarily score a lot. That said, if you get the right offense paired up with you, you might get a 10-9 barn burner wherever Tennessee's at. So I don't know. You're going to have to pay attention to that matchup. But I think given Tennessee's not potent offense, it's going to be tough to probably go on the road if they do and win a game somewhere.
And they still have to beat Vanderbilt first. All right, I got to ask you about hoops, Mike.
Let's do it.
Chaz Lanier, is he the next Dalton Connect? He's I know, and I say that kind of facetiously. He's not going to be a first round pick or anything like that, but he is kind of that guy for them, right? Buckets.
Yeah, I mean, he's Chaz Lanier. That's kind of been my thought on it. Just the similarity there obviously is a high-scoring transfer that's come in and had a good impact. And that's exactly what Chaz Lanier is doing. I think he's kind of doing it his own way a little bit. I think he's better defensively. I think there's probably a little bit less explosiveness than Dalton had. It's a different player, but the scoring looks very similar in terms of the number. And Tennessee needs that. I mean, they had a drop-off there, obviously, and he's been incredible to watch. I think Igor Milicic has shown why he is such an intriguing player. I think Cade Phillips has improved so much. I mean, they got a lot of things going for them, but the Chaz in the Bahamas, I think I joked about it on Twitter, was Tennessee should consider playing all of its home games in a ballroom because that, I mean, whatever was going on there, he could not miss from three.
No doubt about it. Well, Mike, great stuff as always, man. We're really looking forward to the game coming up on Saturday and appreciate so much you taking time to be with us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Absolutely. Mike Wilson for the Knoxville News Sentinel, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. A massive game coming up in our city this weekend between Tennessee and Vanderbilt. We'll get into that coming up next. And what sort of a chance do we give Vanderbilt in this game to ruin the party for the Vols? More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Josh, your players know what's at stake if you win this game. Is it a difficult task for a coach to address the playoff part of it without dwelling on it too much, or do you ignore it? Is that a difficult task for a coach?
No, I addressed it today. But I said it last week. There's a lot of football to be played. That's for everybody across the country. It's for us. And, focus on the task at hand. And we have to be our best on Saturday. You can look at how they've performed throughout the course of the season, how they've played at home, statistically, what they're doing in all three phases. You got to understand you're going to get their best, and their best is really good. And we got to be at our best too.
That's Josh Heupel looking ahead to the matchup with Vanderbilt on Saturday. Joe, this was going to be fun on Saturday. Tennessee with a win. Pretty darn good chance to get in the college football playoff if they get it. And then on the flip side of things, Vanderbilt already with a successful season, already bowl eligible, looking for win number 7, and an opportunity to ruin the party and spoil the fun for the Vols. Whatever Vanderbilt's best shot is, I would imagine Tennessee is going to get it on Saturday. I am very intrigued, fascinated, excited for this game coming up on Saturday between Tennessee and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, me too. And like Mike Wilson said, for the texter who asked who this bleep stick is, that's Mike Wilson, the Knoxville News Sentinel, Knoxville, Tennessee. Covered the Vols for many, many years now. Friend of the show. Like he said, Vanderbilt, they can really frustrate because they're okay dinking and dunking and just kind of moving, slowly down the field. It's like 3rd and 4. Oh, and there's Pavia with a 5-yard run. 3rd and 3. Oh, Pavia handed that one, and there's a 4-yard run, and they, so like they can be very frustrating. I'm very excited to see, this Vanderbilt offense against the Tennessee defense. It is a different kind of game for Tennessee's defense. I think we have seen defenses do a better job against Vanderbilt recently. The other night, Pavia hits the big shot on the first play of the game, and the rest of the night they're held to 10. I mean, look, it's at LSU at night. South Carolina, who I think is probably playing about as well as anyone. There's a big one this weekend, by the way. South Carolina, Clemson.
Yep. And
the rivalry, in-state rivalry front.
A lot of goobers in that matchup.
The goober off, but they also did a good job against Vanderbilt's offense. So Tennessee, that's going to be, I think that's a primo matchup. Tennessee's defense and Vanderbilt's offense. And then, obviously, it's like Mike said, I have a little bit more optimistic view, I think, overall of Tennessee's offense. Like, obviously, it didn't go well in the second half of Georgia. I did like a lot of what I saw in the first half. I think there's some improvement. It's still like you're playing the edges. You're not using much of the middle of the field. And then you're not hitting those. You got to hit a couple of those. And by the way, even though we rip on the receivers, Nico's missed some.
He's missed some throws that you got to.
He's missed some guys, yeah. He's missed some opportunities with that. So I think Tennessee still has the potential on offense to go in the playoff and do enough. But in this stadium, that's going to be really interesting too. What's the crowd going to be Saturday? I think it's going to be.
The ticket prices are unreal for this thing.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
The secondary market continues to spike for this. I looked 2 days ago just to see what it was, and the cheapest ticket was like $250. I'd be interested to see what it is now.
Yeah, obviously it's a small capacity, so you got way more demand than supply. Hey, going into the year, you figure this. Well, it's gonna be another one of those orange outs at Vanderbilt, and I've seen that place where it was more Vanderbilt than Tennessee for this game, and I've seen it when it was definitely more Tennessee. This is going to be really interesting. Obviously, so many Tennessee fans are playing for so much, but Vanderbilt fans are energized. They have a good football team to cheer for. So how does that look?
Yeah.
In the stands on Saturday? I imagine it's probably going to be 50-50-ish. That'd be my guess.
Tickets in the 25th Avenue garage right now, so not even in the stadium, are going for $204 a piece. So what does that tell you?
Like to go watch from the top of the garage?
That is correct.
I didn't even know.
$204 a piece. I'm just on StubHub right now. That's what it says.
I didn't know. I didn't realize you sold tickets.
I didn't either.
Wow.
It says section 25th Avenue garage, $204 a piece. 2 tickets.
Holy cow. That's That's so weird.
That kind of
to
shows
me.
you what it is right now.
Yeah, man. It's a hot ticket. It's I guess it's kind of too bad. It's an early game. I mean, I like it, because of course media people like the early games.
Sure.
But no, it's gonna be a scene, man. It's gonna be a scene, and Vanderbilt. There is it'd be even more exciting if Vanderbilt was, instead of 6-5, was 5-6, and the stakes were so huge for both sides.
Right.
Because Vanderbilt, they got to the bowl eligibility, they win at Auburn, and they've had a couple tough losses. I mean, it's a tough league, man. But they sort of have they know they're going to the bowl game. They know it's a successful season, and they can now ruin things for the Vols.
Yep.
And that's a pretty good intangible situation for them.
Well, this feels like a game where Diego Pavia could just be an absolute thorn in the side of Tennessee. Now, to your point, it does feel like defenses have started to figure out Vanderbilt a little bit. I mean, the last 3 games, they put up 17 against Auburn. They scored 7 against South Carolina, and they scored 17 on the road against LSU. So the offensive production has not really been there the last 3 weeks, just in terms of putting up points. Obviously, this is a Tennessee defense that, with the exception of basically the second half against Georgia, it's gone pretty well for Tennessee's defense all year. Now, this is a different type of game and a different type of matchup, so I'm interested to see how that part of it goes.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's where it gets tough because it is playing a different game. So what you do, and there's different schemes that the Vols have seen. It's not like they're all the same scheme, but it's different enough that some of that stuff won't necessarily translate. Linebacker play is hugely important, right, in this game. And Tennessee, I mean, I'd feel better if I was the Vols if I had Keenan Peely right now. But they also have, obviously, an opportunity to win up front, as they always do, with that defensive line and the depth and the talent. So if you win and you disrupt, consistently up front, then you can throw their stuff off, right? I mean, you can disrupt them and you can mess up what they're doing offensively. But it's assignment football, and there's a lot of creativity involved. So apparently people are saying that's just a parking pass.
I'm going to doubt very seriously it's $204 for a parking pass.
That would be the dumbest thing ever. Yeah, because I think that that you can, on the top of that ramp, watch from the top. That's got to be what it is.
If it's $204 to park, I'm going to imagine that not a whole lot of people are going to exercise that option.
You can go seriously less than a mile away and park for basically free. So yeah, I don't think that's it. But my question would be then, so you have a spot that must be locked in on the roof.
It must be. Yeah, I don't know.
You watch them there.
I mean, for $204, you better get something pretty cool up there. I don't know.
I would hope so. My goodness. Yes, I see your joke about Nico could overthrow the North Korean government. Okay, there, I just said it for you. Thank you. Nate asks if the Vols don't win by a lot, if they win by 3 to 7 points, will that keep them out? No, I mean, I don't believe so. I believe if they win this game, then they will make the playoff.
Yeah.
I don't think they have to like win with style points in this game. Not the way things have turned out now. That shouldn't be the case.
No,
The path is there for them.
By the way,
get to 10-2.
With the way that things played out this past weekend, that's all Tennessee should be. Just win the game. Just win the game.
Absolutely.
Whether it's by 1, by 20, whatever it is, win the game.
This isn't 2-9 Vanderbilt. This is 6-5. Beat Alabama. Beat Auburn on the road. Vanderbilt.
Right.
Beat Kentucky on the road. I mean, I know Kentucky and Auburn aren't great teams, but I mean, this is a quality win if you get it.
Couple quick things on Nico. I think two things with him are true as the season has kind of gone on here. Number one, I do think he's getting better. I think you've seen him improve in the second half of the season. And number two, I do not think he has approached what they thought or what the expectation was for him to be so far this year. I think both of those things can be true. I think they are true. That doesn't mean that he's never going to turn into that. Like, I've seen a lot of that on Vol Twitter, like, well, this guy is not going to come close to what you thought he was going to be. I every now and then he'll make a throw and you're just like, wow. I mean, it's a heck of a throw. I would say the consistency has not come together anywhere near to the level that most people thought it would this year.
Yeah, I agree. It's just I want to see, and again, as we talked about, the protection's gotten better. I do want to see him with a better situation at receiver. And I don't know. It's 2 years now with Halsley at OC, and I don't want it's a Heupel's offense, but they don't use the middle of the field. Now, he has thrown a couple bad picks, as Joe Milton did, and it's like they get scared away from that, but they just play the edges. It's screen, try a deep shot. And I know they use a tight end some, but I feel like there's more there that you could get to with him, and they're kind of limited in what they do. So I would not give up on Nico turning into like an NFL prospect and a big time player. It's true right now as a redshirt freshman, his first year of playing, he's not what people were hoping he would be.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts to get to on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll do that. Back into the Titans coming up next as well. The Rex Rant with Caroline Rexrode coming up a little bit later this hour as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 1025. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Twin Peaks in Cool Springs this Sunday for the pregame show, 9:30 to 11:30. They'll break down the Week 13 matchup against the Commanders, give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Taking your thoughts on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe, one texter wondering if Vols fans would give up a loss to Vandy this week for a basketball national championship. We make it that one.
Well, you tell me, Robby.
No.
No way.
No.
A basketball national championship.
No.
Can't do it. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking to the person that loves college football
way more than basketball.
way more.
Yes.
So I'm probably not the best person to ask.
Yeah, but you probably represent. I mean, that's probably true of most of the fan base, right?
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly a good Tennessee basketball fan base for sure.
Yeah. I'm all in, March.
That's a tough one, man. I don't know. I think that's a really interesting one. If anybody wants to weigh in on that, feel free.
What's your answer?
If for me, I would. Yeah, it's hard because you're talking about the misery of losing to Vanderbilt and losing a playoff spot. That's rough.
It's a
man.
tough combo.
It's not just like. I mean, it's not just like a loss. I mean, it's not just losing the opportunity. It's losing the opportunity to Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah.
And I think you Tennessee fans sometimes try to like downplay how much you dislike Vanderbilt, but I think that there's a nice, healthy dislike here in this rivalry.
I think so.
I mean, you're level-headed, and I feel like you like can appreciate when Vanderbilt does good stuff, things
Sure.
like that, right?
I like Clark Lee.
Yeah, and you like different people, but some Vols fans hate Vanderbilt, and I mean, you should,
By the way, like if you're a Vanderbilt fan this week, like this has got to be really exciting for you. Like you're basically in a no lose scenario here, because if you lose to Tennessee, yeah, it sucks. Like you want to beat Tennessee, but you've had a great year. You've done way better than anybody else thought you would do. You've already beaten Alabama at home. It's like you're going to a bowl game in some ways. And I know like Clark Lee's not going to view it this way, but like in some ways, you're kind of playing with house money here with an opportunity to just eliminate Tennessee. Like if you're a Vandy fan, you got to be pretty fired up for Saturday.
For sure. Now, if Tennessee comes in, beats you, celebrates on your field, and they're going off to the playoff,
That'd be tough.
You're not loving it. Yeah, you're not like, oh yeah, well, whatever. We went 6-6. Yay. That's what it should be. It's a rivalry. And that you can't manufacture the dynamics of an in-state rivalry, Oh, how about that's the question. Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of no way on the basketball
national
ones.
championship.
Nobody. If we ask this question in like March 15th, some people would be like, "Oh my God, we could go win a national championship."
Yeah, but the game's
I get
Saturday.
it.
It's like, yeah, come on.
Yeah. This question needs to be asked like in August, when it's not one of the things right in front of you.
Where do you think? You don't have to give me like a specific number if you don't want to, but where do you think Tennessee lands tonight in the rankings? Doesn't matter where they land tonight.
Crap, I'm glad you said that because I have to get my projections and I haven't done them yet. Crap. I think they're going to be right around 9 or 10.
That sounds right.
I think. Yeah, right.
There's
in
an
that
idea
range.
out there that like based on everything that went down last week, that they're going to host a game now, and I would still be surprised if they're not on the road if they get into the college football playoff.
Yeah, I would think so too. I wouldn't. I could see them possibly. Could they get to the 8? I think you'd probably have to have a little bit more, maybe some more upsets to come. I mean, the big, some of these.
Heather Dinich has her projection on the screen right now on SportsCenter. She's got Tennessee, Georgia again in the 8-9 matchup. Georgia being at home.
God, see, that's you look at that bracket. You got Tennessee, Georgia in a rematch. You got Indiana 11 at Penn State 6. Now I know that they didn't play, but can we just flip flop that and get an SEC Big Ten in both of those games?
I agree.
Instead of, but so that projection would suggest they're not terribly far, from being the 8 seed and being able to host.
And that would
So-
also suggest that Georgia has 3 losses, gets in and still host a home game. That'd be something.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that, the other night, Kirby Smart, at his press conference, they're like, they were asking him about being in the SEC championship game, and he was almost like, oh, really? I don't want, he didn't say it, but it's like, nobody wants to play in that crap. I mean, seriously. So, Texas or Texas A&M, right? That is what it is, right? The winner plays Georgia. Is it that simple? Have we made it that simple now? I think so.
I think so.
So, I mean, if you're Georgia, let's say Texas goes and they win, and which to me would lock in Texas, right? But now you're Georgia, you got Texas coming in looking for revenge against you, and you're either, you're going to beat them and be a top 4 seed,
yeah,
which is great, or you're going to lose and I think not make the playoff.
Yeah.
No thanks. Can we gift that to somebody else?
Yeah.
Tennessee, would you like to play?
Nobody wants to play in the SEC championship.
And it's just, again, this is where, and I know the alternative is, oh, okay, so the champions of the leagues are just the winners of the 4th tiebreaker,
right,
which is like non-league opponent winning percentage, and then you get the automatic, and I get it. And I also get that these are revenue makers, so they're not going away, but the championship games now have just are being made so silly by this whole thing.
I got one texter that says, come on now. We're talking about a national championship. As a Vols fan, I would 110% lose to Vandy for one, especially with a 12-team playoff chance now. If it was 4 teams, it'd be a harder choice. Dennis,
you're not getting in if you lose at Vanderbilt.
Dennis says, Tennessee isn't going to win a national championship if they beat Vandy. Trade the loss for a basketball title. Another texter says, I would 100 times over take the basketball national title over going to the playoffs that they have no hope of winning.
Wow. Okay. I'm a little bit surprised.
Is there really no hope of winning?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that there's like some unbeatable team.
There's not
in college football.
Right, I mean, now. They just showed the game at Georgia. I saw Tennessee for a lot of that game outplay Georgia, and they made some big mistakes. And look, Georgia got hot. Carson Beck got rolling. So if he's going to play like that, well, Georgia will be tough. But they're not unbeatable.
Well, some of it's just your matchup too, right? Like if you're a Tennessee fan, are you scared of an 8-9 matchup going on the road to take on Indiana?
No,
I would not be. Notre Dame, you scared of that? I wouldn't be.
I'm
not saying you're definitely going to win those games, but like you're not shaking in your boots like, oh my gosh, it's Indiana.
Right.
It's Notre Dame.
And then
after that, it's neutral site.
Right. And the way it sets up too. And I mean, I don't dislike how they've done it, with the conference championship. I mean, I think that's good. Everybody used to complain conference championships don't get rewarded. Okay, you reward it. But the way so let's see who are the top 4 seeds right now. So you got Georgia, Miami, very flawed team, bad defense. You got right now Arizona State. Yeah. And Boise State are both projected as top 4 seeds because they're if the Big 12 doesn't get one of the top 4 rankings, then the Big 12 is just going to have to be like the 10 seed with their one team. So it's not like even the top 4 seeds are even, a couple of those are 2 of the weakest teams in the field.
Yeah. I would not say it's unwinnable. Now, would I pick Tennessee to win the national championship? No, I would not. But I
wouldn't either, but there's a chance.
Right. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rex Rant with Caroline Rexrode coming up next. I'm looking forward to this one. Get back into the Titans.
Better be good.
As well. Tune in to 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville this Saturday for MTSU football. Blue Raiders taking on FIU with kickoff at 1 o'clock, pregame beginning at 11:30. MTSU football coverage on 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville, presented by Sloan's Motorcycle ATV. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Pop it out of my little, oh, there it is, my little mint pocket. Have it. But I it's okay to have your own mints in your pocket, right? Is
Yeah,
that
you
okay,
didn't.
everybody?
You didn't distribute them to anyone else.
No, I'm done with that.
Anybody
You
want my pocket mints? Pocket mints. Going once. Going twice. Anybody want one?
If you set off any fireworks in my neighborhood, I am going to find where you are. I'm going to drive around the neighborhood quietly. I'm going to find out which house they're coming from, and I'm going to egg your house. Okay? So I'm making you a promise right now. And like, I'd rather listen to REO Speedwagon fart into an accordion than go to a Creed show. But that's just me.
The descriptive language of Joe Rexrode on the program. It is time for the Rex Rant, but not your normal Rex Rant today. A new and improved, and quite frankly, better version of the Rex Rant is now with us. Caroline Rexrode,
We'll
welcome
see.
to the program.
We'll see.
I have pretty good confidence that this will be better.
And now I'm looking on the camera. Oh, did I already miss it where she fell and almost fell? And
I don't think it was on then. I think she timed it up pretty nicely.
Man, that's too bad.
Nope, it was on there.
Oh, okay.
It was on there?
Forget everything I just said.
I just got there too late. Well, good. We can get the video, right? Yeah, we can get
we'll
the
clip
video
that
and show mom later.
Okay, so can I talk?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're supposed to be
So-
your rant. Go ahead.
My Rex rant today is about another Rexrode, which my dad, who's,
Lovely.
So today we're going to talk about how old he is because it gets annoying sometimes. So as everyone knows, he's like, how old are you? Like 106? Oh, wait, 51, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think you were on the right
he's
track
actually
earlier.
closer. So
Go
he's actually closer to 100 than 0,
That's true.
which is crazy.
Thank you.
But yeah. So his use of technology is so poor. Like, it's crazy. Like, we have a smart TV, and obviously he has to use the TV for his job. Like, we always have sports on, and it is every day. He calls my older brother who lives in Michigan. He's a junior in college. He goes to Michigan State. He lives in Michigan. Calls my older brother to fix the TV for him. Like, he has to get step by step from my older brother. And first he tries me, then he tries Brennan, and then if that all fails, then he calls him. And,
What? Well, if it fails, whose fault is that?
well,
Is
I
that
just
my
I
fault?
don't feel like helping you because you just
Oh.
don't get it.
Oh, okay.
He's patient with my dad. No one wants to help you. Okay. So then also, for The Athletic, he has a MacBook, and he cannot figure out how to use it. Like, I've tried to help him so many times. He cannot figure out. He's using my
You get me in trouble.
Boomer.
okay. Like, I feel like he literally could if he tried, but he just doesn't get it. And it just makes me so mad. It's literally a nice MacBook, and this is your second one. And he still doesn't know how to use it.
Just getting called out right here on the program.
Okay.
This could not be going better. Continue, Caroline.
So, and then also, his phone, like, he just doesn't know the emoji he uses. Like, enough with the emojis, Dad. And just everything that's so annoying about him. And then
Thanksgiving week. Let's all give thanks.
This is like
Okay.
Festivus.
Let's all give
An
thanks.
airing
Yeah.
of the grievances.
Yes, the grievances are being aired.
okay. And then wait.
Are you just like, and then let me come up with another one?
By the
No,
way-
I had one. I forgot.
Oh.
So we were just talking about a movie. I don't know what it's called.
Planes, trains, automobiles.
Yeah. And he was fighting with Robby. He was like, no, it came out in 1988. But it literally came out in 1987. He was like, no, I was in 10th grade when I watched it. Like, that just proves how old you are. Like, you just can't even remember 10th grade. Like, that was so long ago. You can't
Just getting eviscerated here.
you
I
can't
love
even
it.
remember.
What emojis does he use that are just wrong?
Okay, so he uses the red heart a lot, which
Yeah,
enough.
like I love you. You know?
Then he uses
Which
that.
I'll stop using it after this.
He he uses the worst smiling emoji, and just stop.
Got a texter that says this has turned into a roast real quick.
Rex roast.
Yeah. Ooh, now we're on to something.
The Rex roast.
Yeah, maybe we should
Yeah,
do that.
Man, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that should be a thing.
Is there anything you're
Actually.
thankful for since it's Thanksgiving
Yes,
week?
I'm very thankful for my dad because he has done a lot for me, and he lets me DoorDash, and he
That's
buys me a lot of things. So
Go cool. Well, hey, as long as we're buying stuff, everything's fine. Yep, there
Okay,
you
but-
go.
for real though, he actually is a very great dad, except when he gets mad at me.
Ooh.
Thank you.
That
Okay,
was
I'll take
awesome.
that. We'll take that.
I told you
Yeah,
it would be
good
way
job.
better than anything you've done, and I was correct.
Was I
yes.
better? Can I? Okay. Was I better than Brennan?
Oh, no doubt.
I'd say so, especially because he's probably not awake right now,
What
so
did-
I don't have to.
Although
Brennan
publicly-
Brennan's
rant
rant
about-
was like some sports takes that he had.
Yeah, he had a
And-
bunch of sports takes.
And some of them were a little off the wall.
We're dumb, stupid.
Do you have any sports
Like
takes?
Tom Brady was like not a top 100
I
quarterback.
Yeah, right.
I think so when I was listening to them talk, I talked to them about this when they were on break, but I think that they should stop. They're literally talking.
You use literally. Go ahead.
They're talking about how bad these players are, and it's not like they could do it. Like, what? Like they're like, oh yeah, like that he needs to throw better. Like they're critiquing these players that they didn't make it to the NFL.
This is how I buy you things. So you're right,
And-
though. You're not wrong.
She's 100%
And
right.
my dad, so he told me not that long ago that the reason he became like he wanted to become sports is because when he was little he wanted to play sports like that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
So that's how that turned out. And
She just like looked at my belly when she said that.
Yeah. Man.
Okay, so and now you're critiquing and being mean.
Well, but we're not always mean.
Okay, but
I think
most
we're a
of the time-
fair
We're
show.
very fair on
We're a
this
fair
program.
show. Take this to Jared.
Oh, I could say a lot about Jerry, but
Oh, here we go.
I'll choose kindness. So when I'm going to talk about this. My dad most of the time picks me up from school, and when he picks me up, I get in the car after a long 7-hour day of school, and I just hear Jared screaming, like on the top of his lungs.
A 9-minute run.
Exactly. I actually got scared for a second. I was like, "Why is Jared here?" Okay. Like screaming, and it is so annoying. Like I just want him to turn it off, and he's like, "It's for my job." It's like, sorry. It's
Yeah,
for
when
my
I'm
job.
in the car, I listen to Jared.
Like, and then we get home, and we're sitting in the car still playing. Why is it still playing? When the car turns off, or when we're
If Jared's
at
having a good take, I
house,
got to keep listening.
Why is it snowing?
May not stop all that much.
We almost have to go to break now. Wrap it up.
Okay. Just stop playing Jared. Jared's so annoying. No disrespect. No disrespect.
No disrespect,
With all due
Jared.
respect.
All due respect, you're
Just-
annoying, Jared.
Just when you're screaming and it's 3:00 after my 7-hour day of school, it is the most annoying thing. Like number one of my pet peeves.
Oh, that was awesome.
We
This has
weren't
been
even-
Festivus.
Yeah, this has been. All right.
So yeah,
Caroline,
I didn't
great
realize
job.
we were going to Jared there, but I
Well,
pivoted.
I wasn't trying to.
Great job, Caroline. That was
Good
very
job.
good. Very well done.
Good job.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Rexrode is just getting smoked on the text line right now, which I love. Keep them coming. 615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Titans and Will Levis coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Caroline Rexrode here with you on this Tuesday morning. The most popular Rex rant of all time just took place. Caroline Rexrode with a ton of support on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
The people like it.
The people love it. The people want some more of it. Got a texture that says, Stillman catching some strays while young Rexrode empties the clip into dear old dad is the Thanksgiving appetizer I never knew I needed.
Now you're ready for some stuffing. Meanwhile, Dennis has just thrown out some greatest hits. The Rexrode's Lint Mints, curiously damp mints, denim flavor. Amazing. Me with eggs. And I mean, the Ario Speedwagon actually crouching over an accordion and letting one rip on stage. Honestly,
well done, DJ.
If I could have a gift, it would be his illustrations made into a book. Can you do that for me, Caroline?
That'd be good. That'd be real nice.
Do what?
See, if you don't know what you're talking about, turn off your mic.
Dylan says,
let's see this.
Dylan says that was absolute radio cold. Trevor says, OMG, please clip her saying Jared's so annoying with the dead emoji face.
Do you have it? Do you have it?
We're going to find it.
Not immediately, but I can get it.
That's one that we may have to save.
Stilly is weighed in, says respect taken from Caroline there. It's good.
Real quick on this, Caroline has ranted about Still Billy before. This was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was when we were up in East Lansing. Remember you were saying because Caroline Fenton needs to talk more on the show. Like a few months later, we went to like an event. It was like, I forget what the event was for, but they had the dunk tanks and stuff. And so you were like 11. I swear to you that Stilly was still angry. Wouldn't even look at her. I defy him. Oh yeah. He was still mad because she ranted on him. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
Well, he just
good job.
Got another sort of ammunition here.
He's got more. I know. Don't cross paths with him now.
The text line in full support of Caroline Rexrode. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. The Titans coming off a big win against Houston. They got Washington coming up on Sunday. Will Levis 3 games in a row where the quarterback play has been improved. Certainly a step in the right direction over the last 3 weeks. We talked earlier about Brian Callahan saying yesterday that there's just more of a comfort between him and Levis. He understands a little bit better the type of throws that Levis can make, what makes him successful in his offense. And we threw that out there yesterday is, how much of that is just more time spent together in the offense that's led to this success. It has been fascinating, Joe, that, it's basically the line of demarcation here has been the injury, right? Like he gets hurt, he plays the Colts game, and then after that, he's out. And when he comes back in against LA, that's when it started to get better. So I don't know how much of it is a physical reset and just getting the arm healthy again, how much of it is just mental of him getting away from it for a little bit and maybe studying some things while he was out and getting a better feel for the mistakes that he was making and how to correct it. I don't know what the full answer is, but for whatever reason, since he's come back from injury, he looks like a different quarterback than he did before. Now, granted, what he looked like before was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So there was nowhere to go but up, really. But he's done that, and now he's made the conversation, at least for the moment, fascinating heading down the stretch here in the regular season.
Yeah, I think sometimes you forget, too. It's not just his first real opportunity to start. He came in last year, and that was a little bit of house money situation, but it's Brian Callahan's first time as a play caller. Brian Callahan's first time as a head coach, first time with Will Levis. I mean, it's all very early. Ridley's new here. They're new together. And the offensive line is bad. So that is going to complicate doing the job well. It's going to make it more difficult. I have to think that the time away helped him to some extent to sit back and probably look, the struggles, there was the weight of the world on him. People were asking about it going into the year, and everybody knows the score, the opportunity, and the stakes of this season for Will Levis. So it almost seems like not only did the reset help him sit back, watch, and that can help you, mental reps, Butch Jones, but also maybe just kind of understanding, look, everybody's giving up on you now, basically. I mean, like as he was sitting there after the way he played, there were not a lot of people, I would argue, who were like, oh, it's going to be fine. He's going to turn it around. He's going to be great, And he knows that. It's impossible to not know what the discussion is. And he knew how he played. So maybe there's a little bit of, I don't know if YOLO is the way to put it, because sometimes I feel like there's too much YOLO. There was too much YOLO early with him, but maybe a little bit of like, hey, just go out there and, just play. And, I think he's gotten better. He still threw a pick six last game, worth mentioning. It's not perfect here. But if you took that out, if you take out the pick six, it's a very well quarterback game. I think that was the best he's played other than the pick six.
Well, and then, obviously pick six is not the first one he's thrown this year. Like it's like, what's he up to 3 pick sixes now? So that's got to stop. You got to stop throwing pick sixes and giving the other team touchdowns. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, on the whole, let's take these 3 games together and kind of combine them into one. On the whole, the last 3 weeks, if this is what he is the rest of the year, I guess my question to you, my question to Titans fans is that good enough? Is the last 3 weeks, if that's what he is the rest of this season, is that enough for you to be convinced that he should be the quarterback next season? Forget long-term franchise, here's $55 million on your contract, because I still think we're a long way away from that. Is what we've seen the last 3 weeks good enough to convince you, yep, they should run it back with him one more year and he should be the quarterback next season?
So if you took the last 3 games, and I don't have the exact numbers, but basically, the last 3 games, QB rating, you're talking about you'd be an average of about 110 rating over those 3 games. You've got 5 touchdowns against 2 picks.
I've got the numbers for you if you want.
You got the average?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. PK threw this out there yesterday on Twitter. Last 3 games, he's 53 of 78, which is about 68% completion percentage, 748 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's been sacked 20 times, and his passer rating is 107.2.
And his yards per attempt looks like, as I look at it, I mean, you're talking high 9s in the yards per attempt, which is a really good number. Yeah, take that and double it. Take that and triple it. Now, granted, if you have 1 pick six every 3rd game, then I guess if you're taking everything and all those sacks, as we've talked about, he can do a better job of not getting sacked at times. But I mean, that if you took that and you played it out over a whole year, I mean, you're a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. I mean, but again, it's three game sample size coming off what he did earlier in the season. So you just have to see if he can keep doing it. That's the hardest thing to find is consistency, but I feel like he's seeing things faster. The arm talent is, I mean, we've seen it more, and I think in part because there've been opportunities for him to show it more. It's always been there, right? I mean, he's made some very good throws, and I think good decisions, better decisions. So it's probably getting more comfortable in the offense and all those things. So is this what he is? I don't know that. But if he keeps doing this, then the discussion continues to shift at least toward, yeah, it totally makes sense to give him another crack at it next year.
I would answer it this way. Had it continued on the trajectory that it was on before these 3 games, you were going to be forced to do something at quarterback if you're the Titans, whether that's in the draft or in free agency. I mean, if it continued that way, bringing Will Levis back as your starting quarterback next year was not an option. Like it just was not. If he continues this way, it's an option. Like you don't have to force yourself into a quarterback decision. Now, that doesn't mean you don't make one. We talked about it yesterday. Like if you go through your draft evaluation and you're in a spot where you're able to land a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders or whoever it is, and you're convinced that person is your franchise quarterback, then you do it. You take the franchise quarterback. Or if, I don't know, like if Sam Darnold becomes available in free agency and you want a shot at Sam Darnold and you feel like he gives you a much better chance to win than Levis and could be your long-term quarterback, then you do it if that's the decision you come to. What I think this does is it makes him coming back as the starter next year, if he continues this, a viable option. Whereas before, I do not think it was. Like I don't think you could have sold that before.
Yeah, before this stretch, I I probably would have said the best case for him next year would be part of a competition. That could be a competition with a rookie. I mean, if you draft one of those guys, you still may. I mean, to me, it's always smart to not want to play the rookie right away. So then Levis still could have been the starter next year, but then eventually what's going to happen. Or in a competition, I guess, with a veteran. But I think now it's possible that it's Levis and a backup, and you're just trying to do everything you can again to help him with, of course, fixing the offensive line, which is easier said than done because the Titans have been trying to work on that offensive line for years now, and they continue to spin their tires at the tackle position. But that's that and an edge and a receiver and all the different things to try to help a quarterback do his job better. I think that's now on the table. And I don't think for me, it wasn't a good idea before watching him play like this the last 3 games.
So if Will Levis continues to play like he has the last 3 games, is he the quarterback next year for the Tennessee Titans? Is that good enough? We'll take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. More on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Tune in to 102.5 The Game this Saturday for Vanderbilt football presented by Prince's Hot Chicken. Commodores taking on Tennessee at First Bank Stadium with pregame beginning at 9:30, kickoff at 11 a.m. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at theGameNashville.com. Also tune in to 94.9 The Fan this Saturday at 6 o'clock for our college football game of the week. Oklahoma taking on LSU, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Chris and Dixon says, if Levis continues his current trend, he'll be the quarterback next year. Odds are they'll win 1 or 2 more games. If that happens, Titans will be picking 6th or later, putting Ward and Shedeur Sanders out of reach. Darnold would be a terrible idea. He'll be expensive, and he's got one good year on a team with Justin Jefferson. Compare that to how many bad years Darnold has had. Would you pay $50+ million for that risk? First off, I don't think Darnold's going to get $50+ million. I would be surprised.
Yeah, he'll probably be in the 35 to 40 range, though.
Yeah,
but look, I understand what you're saying, but I think Darnold, that kind of goes along with a lot of what we talk about with quarterbacks, right? Sometimes they're bad early and then they get better. I mean, Koharski has been saying this for a while about Levis, like 2-3 years, he's going to emerge somewhere else and he's going to be good. He's going to be good enough to start. And that may be true. Maybe it's here. Maybe you don't. Maybe that's why you don't give up on someone so quickly. Again, I'm looking at Bryce Young, who I know what I saw when he was at Alabama, and I understand how loaded Alabama was. Looking at Bryce Young right now with his second chance with Carolina. If you watched any of that Chiefs-Panthers game, he was pretty good, man.
Yep.
And he has looked terrible early. So with terrible surroundings. I mean, it's so I like the dismissing Darnold having this year because it was Jefferson and because he was bad early. He was bad with the Jets and the Panthers, and he has gotten better, right? Like there's no question to me, he's at least like some level of starting QB in the NFL, which I would never.
He's a good player right now.
Yeah. And that can happen. And it's not, I don't think it's just like
by the way,
Justin Jefferson.
Like everybody just assumes that he's going to be available. I understand that they took J.J. McCarthy in the first round. But if like the Vikings go 13-4 this year and they end up, going to the NFC title game
and win a playoff game,
they're just
going to the rookie.
They're just going to turn it away from him after that. Maybe they will. I don't know. I know it's a high pick on J.J. McCarthy. I'm just saying, I don't know that it's just like some foregone conclusion that he's going to be available and out there.
I'm with you. I think that they have to really be having serious conversations about keeping him. And if you're him, this is the best football you've ever played. So why is that? I mean, I think Kevin O'Connell is definitely a quarterback-friendly coach.
By the way, Sam Darnold's 27. So it's not like you're dealing with some ancient quarterback there either. Like he's still got plenty of football left in him. If this is what he is, like if he is this player now and he's this good, he's got plenty of football left in him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think that's a very fair point.
So if he does become available, maybe an option for the Titans there. I don't know.
I think again, if it keeps going this way, he had the 5 picks in 2 games or whatever it was, and it's like, but if he's gonna keep winning and playing well, then I think the market for him gets more and more robust.
I got one texter that says, if this is what Levis actually is and can improve on what he showed Sunday, yes, he's back next year. But that's a huge what if. Bradford on the text line says, I'm with Koharski, saying he's good enough to be the quarterback while you fix everything else that needs addressing around him. And that's kind of, I guess, where I'm at with this discussion right now. What you don't want to have happen, really ever, but certainly right now, if you're the Titans, you don't want to be put in a situation where you have to that can end up being disastrous for you. And like I said last segment, if Levis had continued on the trajectory he was on, I think that was going to be the case. Like you were going to have to do something at quarterback. I'm not saying that you don't now, but if he continues this way, I think you're at least in a spot with the Titans where you don't necessarily have to force it, be that in the draft or in free agency. That's how you end up with bad decisions and years of ineptitude as a franchise when you're just repeatedly forcing it at the quarterback position and praying that something sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like if you totally believe one of those guys, and the texture we read earlier, maybe right, if you're picking 8th or whatever it is, Titans maybe screwing it up, winning games, and like a Ward and a Sanders wouldn't be within reach. Who knows? I mean, that's how it often works out. But then, like you saw 2 years ago, when everybody said it was a bad draft class, and that's how it worked out in the drafting. So that they might be available for you. And then it's like if you're doing it because God, we need a quarterback. Well, then that's the wrong reason. It has to be yes, full belief in this particular prospect. And if that's the case and you can make it happen, then do it.
Well, the thing is, right now, I hesitate to talk about the draft order right now because it can change. But, Tankathon.com's got the Titans at 6. Well, in front of them is Jacksonville, the Giants, the Raiders, New England, and Carolina. Well, Jacksonville's not taking a quarterback.
Sure.
New England's not taking a quarterback. They just took Drake May. I guess there's a chance Carolina could, but Bryce Young is starting to play better. So are they taking a quarterback? You feel pretty good about the Giants and the Raiders taking a quarterback.
Those two are, I mean, like it's probably Sanders and Ward probably are like at one place and the others at the other place is how
most likely
guess right now.
Yeah, most likely. Although, Carson Beck looked pretty good in the second half against Tennessee. Maybe he gets back into the good graces.
Well, he all of a sudden, and then
if he goes on some playoff run here with Georgia and looks good, who knows?
Sure. And the guy who has been surging, Jalen Milroe, looked like he never played football before the other night. So
bad.
I don't, it's tough sledding this year to me with the QBs.
Well, and then these QBs are going to get scrutinized immensely by the time the draft comes around. We talk about this every year. People take quarterbacks too high. Sometimes they don't, though. Like, think about the Kenny Pickett year. Like, Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback taken in the first round, and what was he, 17th overall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen this year. I'm just saying people just automatically assume that the quarterbacks are going off the top of the board. And, like, the Raiders may look at it and say, golly, we don't like any of these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. I don't know.
Usually, like
then they go sign Aaron Rodgers.
Like someone, will want to get in there. And I think these guys will go high. Those two at least, Ward and Sanders. But yeah, it's not a guarantee. This could be one of those years where the overall class of quarterbacks is just they all move down a little bit, and it's a weird draft.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Titans and Will Levis, plus Rexrode with a sports take from this weekend. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter, Joe, says, as in college, and like last year, Levis had a good game and 2 games that weren't a disaster, as if he'll be the next Mahomes. Still don't understand Kuharski's love of Levis, but he's lost his edge as a journalist.
Wow.
The sudden talk that Levis is so great is wishful thinking at best. No way that I've changed my mind. Dump him. He'll be at best a low, moderately competent, oft-injured player.
Everyone sucks. Go Gaga. Suck.
Lost his edge as a journalist.
Yeah, wow. So if you have an opinion that doesn't match yours, you've lost your edge as a journalist. So was Kuharski's edge that he used to just say everyone sucks? Is that what we're saying?
Well, that's my first question to PK tomorrow is why
have you
lost your edge as a journalist, and what can we do to regain that edge?
Also, this is David. Yeah, David in Nashville, who is, by the way, a big Stilly guy. Big Stilly believer.
Okay.
Just saying, that's fine. But, I'm just putting it out there. It seems like there's some, like, if you really like Jared, you probably really don't like Kuharski kind of thing.
Although, I mean, as you pointed out, there are some similarities.
Well, for sure. I mean, this is like Harry Potter and what's his name?
Voldemort?
Yeah. Right? I mean,
who must not be
Kuharski looks just like Voldemort. Still, he doesn't look like Harry too much, but
at least he's got hair. That's good.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, PK kind of does look like Voldemort.
I mean, he kind of does. Still, he's like, they share the same
DJ Burnside, get on it, baby.
blood or whatever. They have the same spleen or whatever what happened in that show. Sorry. I don't know that Kuharski loves
Harry
Levis.
Potter and Voldemort share a spleen. You heard it here first.
Isn't that what it is? Something like that, right?
Sure.
The lightning strike his forehead. I don't know. I don't think that Kuharski loves Levis. He's just saying, like, he might be the QB. He might be good at some point. You know what? Here's the thing, David. That's why we're talking about, okay, do it again and do it again and do it again, right? Maybe that's what this turns out to be. It's like a couple good games and then you go back, you revert, and then it's pretty simple. But it seems like it might be some improvement that's sticking a little bit. Well, maybe.
Look, I hope it is. Look, I made my feelings on Levis pretty clear this year. I'm out. But it would be great if this got fascinating. Like if the Titans had a legitimate decision to make at the end of the year of, man, this guy showed us something down the stretch. So what do we do at quarterback? And look, I'm with everybody else. Like I'm not necessarily in love with this quarterback class coming out in the draft. Now, that doesn't mean that, I mean, really all it takes, everybody talks about the draft class of the quarterbacks all the time. I mean, really, you got to find one. Like, you got to find one that you like, and if you have an opportunity to pick them and it's the one that you like, well, that's really what matters. It doesn't really matter what the rest of the class looks like. But, I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that any of these guys coming out are going to be, like, high-level NFL quarterbacks. So if that's the case, what you don't want to have happen if you're a Titans fan is to be like, well, we got to take a quarterback, so let's just go take one. And then you end up in the same situation 2 years from now where you're right back in quarterback purgatory and doing this thing all over again.
Yeah. Josh in Kentucky has a very long, I'm happy for you or sorry that happened post about quarterbacks. But, the point about, and a very fair point about teams moved on too fast. We talk about it all the time. Teams moved on too fast from quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, Cleveland, there's a good example. He says, I know there are teams around the league salivating at the thought of Levis being traded or cut.
I don't know about that.
I think that might be a little bit of an overstatement, but the point remains, teams give up too quickly. And it's just, but it's still like there's also examples of giving up and it was like that was the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Josh Rosen could have been great. But seems like, yeah, a lot of these guys, Pickett ever going to get another chance. Mac Jones had a little bit of a chance this year.
Not very good.
I kind of see it. I kind of see giving up on him. I mean, there's plenty of guys who way more are still not going to work out, right? Like way more, even the ones that have given up on quickly, most of them aren't going to work out, but some do.
Well, and as we discussed, like the days of waiting 4 or 5 years for a quarterback to figure it out, I think if they're not gone, they're fading fast, right? Like, Marcus, his second year was good, right? So that bought him some time. And he got the full 5 years. And you're talking
and he won a playoff game the next year, but it was a little bit of a step back in overall production.
Well, and you're talking about a number 2 overall pick. So that factors into it as well. And Levis is in the second round. So there's a lot that's different about it that way. But I do think in general around the league right now, the days of waiting 3, 4, 5 years for your quarterback to figure it out just doesn't happen as often. anymore. Like if you don't show them, I continue, like the Steelers are a great example, right? Like the Steelers are patient in pretty much every aspect of their organization, right? They've had 3 head coaches in the history of their franchise. Like they are in many ways like the model of what NFL teams try to be. And they saw basically a year and a half of Kenny Pickett and were like, yep, okay, wash our hands of that guy. Like that's more and more what it is in the NFL now.
Yes. So this brings me to something I did want to talk about today, which is Anthony Richardson, who fits well into this whole thing. And I'd like to hear from Indy Ben. I mean, Indy Ben has kind of abandoned us.
He did weigh in on Stilly's show yesterday, though.
So he can talk to Stilly, but not us. Oh, we're a little too tough for you. Stilly's a little too easy on Indy Ben. So I was with this child's older brother at Lucas Oil Stadium Sunday for Lions Colts. And, at one point I looked up, or maybe he said to me, he's like, he's 8 for 22 right now, Anthony Richardson. And I was like, so then you look at the numbers, 11 for 28, 172. And I swear to you, I came away from that game thinking that he wasn't that bad. He got totally, he threw a down that was caught. He threw a couple that were not, that they have to be caught. There was no running game to speak of. And he has a good running back, but that's one thing the Lions are good at. And I actually came away from that game feeling better about Anthony Richardson than I have certainly than like before the Jets game, right? And I just, you know what? I think he has a chance to be a player. I do. I still think he has a chance, but it's going to be really interesting on that front too. In the same discussion, the patience. It is different when you're drafted that high. And there are still some throws he misses that you're like, man, that's a layup. You got to have that one. And that may be the thing that does him in. But, man, he did not deserve – those numbers make it look like, oh, God, he's terrible. He didn't deserve those numbers. He really didn't. And so he's another guy who it's going to be really interesting, and it may end up being a thing where then he gets a coaching change and whatever. That's the problem too, is the continuity. The Bears are about to change their coach again.
Yep.
And that's part of the problem with all this too.
Well, and we got this text earlier, like Bryce Young starting to show some signs that he's improving. Levis the last 3 weeks showing some improvement. CJ Stroud, who, by the way, I still think is pretty good. Had a bad game on Sunday, no doubt about that. But we did get a text earlier like, what if at the end of all this, Stroud is the one that ends up not being very good, and Levis and Young and Anthony Richardson are always the ones that improve and have lasting careers with their teams. Could happen.
I'd probably keep the money on Stroud at having the best career of the bunch.
I would too.
But these other guys aren't done, and that is the thing. Especially like with Levis and Bryce Young earlier this year, it was like, oh, so they're just both toast. And here they are playing pretty good football. One other point to make, if Indy Ben is listening, Bob Kravitz wrote, this week that it was an all-time embarrassment for the Colts. That stadium was more than 50% Lions fans. So I understand.
Tier 1 fan base?
What's that?
Tier 1
Well,
fan base?
Pretty good showing from that fan base, but also I think the Colts are still in the shoot. The Colts could have moved right into good position had they won with the Texans losing. And they're in the race. You got Anthony Richardson, and you more than half your stadium is the other team's fans. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indy Ben, if you'd like to weigh in, let me know.
Fred from Ashland City on the text line says, I know everyone wants Joe Burrow, but this team won a lot of games with 225 yards, 2 touchdown Tannehill. If Levis is just solid and they build the team up, they should be fine. This from Fred from Ashland City on the text line.
That's true. Now, fine is what you're looking for, right? You're trying to win it all. Can you win it all with a good quarterback and a great team around him? Yes. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. And certainly we've seen a lot of Super Bowl losers in recent years where it's that, right? But usually the winner is a great quarterback. But again, when's the last not great quarterback to win a Super Bowl?
Nick Foles.
Yeah. The Eagles beating the Pats.
Yeah.
Tom Brady. Man, what happened, Brady? That's a tough loss, man. How'd you lose to Nick Foles? Eli Manning twice. Just wondering.
By the way, shout out to DJ Burnside on Twitter, who has come up with the Jerry Potter and Paul DeMort graphic that has been thrown out there. I've retweeted it at R Stanley NHL.
How do you do that fast?
DJ Burnside really doing the Lord's work on Twitter.
Like I said, Caroline, are you listening? I just want to book of DJ Burnside's graphic illustrations.
615-737-1025, our phone
You
number.
don't care.
615-737-1025. More of your thoughts to get to on our phone and text lines. We'll also get back into the struggling Nashville Predators from last night as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts, our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, rough night for the Nashville Predators last night. They lose 5-2 to the New Jersey Devils. So after maybe their best game of the year on Saturday against Winnipeg, they follow it up and just get smoked by the Devils last night, 5-2. Nico Hischier, a natural hat trick in the second period. And now the Preds are 7-12-3 on the year. So, I mean, we're 22 games in. They've won 7 of them. It's not very good. And you keep waiting for them to break out of it. And look, I'll be honest, the more time goes on, the more you just wonder, like I said last week, is this just what they are? Like, is this just the team that they are? They're at 17 points. You know, we're getting close to Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday, which is really kind of when people start looking at the standings. You know, Edmonton and Colorado are in the wild card spots right now. They're both at 24 points, and you're at 17. So you're 7 points back of a playoff spot right now, which doesn't sound like a ton, but it can be a lot to make up over that stretch. And like I said last week, the most concerning part of it is not necessarily the record. The record is not good. But if you're playing well and you're starting to figure out your game, I think there's still enough time to overcome the record. Problem is, they'll have a game like Saturday night where I thought they took a pretty major step forward 5-on-5. And last night in the second and third periods, they just looked terrible. And it looked awful last night. And the more they do that, the more you just have to wonder, is that just what it's going to be all year?
Well, it's very frustrating, and there's just nothing you can hang your hat on, and it's basically 2 out of every 3 games is quite bad, right? I mean, that's basically what it's been. I don't know if the other game is as good as the Winnipeg game was either, but like when you see that, you know, it's like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So why can't they figure this out? Why are they so prone to just taking backward steps?
I don't know. I don't know. You know, Andrew Burnett talked after the game Saturday, and, you know, Marchessault brought this up too. Like, they made some little tweaks and adjustments 5-on-5. And basically the way Burnett described it wasn't anything that was like sweeping changes, but basically simplified some of the things you do with the puck. And it seemed to work whatever they did seemed to work really well on Saturday. And last night, nothing. I mean, they just didn't get anything going 5-on-5. You know, Forsberg, I mean, they got 2 5-on-5 goals. Forsberg shot one from the boards. That was a good shot, but like, I think it just kind of stunned Markstrom that it got on him that quick. And then you had a breakaway with LaRue that beat Markstrom 5-hole. Other than that, like, you just didn't generate anything 5-on-5. There's not anything happening out there. And then last night, I mean, the Devils are a little bit of an extreme example because they're really, really fast. Like, they got a lot of speed. But last night it was pretty evident that the Predators could not skate with New Jersey. I mean, they just got skated in circles last night.
And that's been happening. I know they had their own coaching change, but that was the same thing last year, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's like the way the Preds play doesn't suit that team very well.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, it's going to be interesting here at home this week. Like, I think a lot of Preds fans, to me, almost seem like they're resigned. And I mean, if you're the Preds, and like if you're Barry Trotz, we're having the discussion in the Athletic about buyers and sellers right now. Like, how are things trending? To me, with what the Preds have done, the Preds need to be a buyer. That's how I look at it. But I mean, I get the counterpoint, but you're all in, right?
What are you selling?
Well, yeah.
You know,
you have 3 first-round picks.
I mean, yeah. Like, what are you selling? Like, Nyquist, Novak? Like, who's?
Well, I'm saying they gotta be buyers.
I know that, but like, I'm saying, like, if you took the approach of being a seller, what are you selling?
Yeah, for sure.
There's not a ton to sell.
Yeah,
right now. I mean, it's a really tough spot to be in. And again, the conversation is going to come back to the coach. And like I said last week, I like Andrew Burnett. I think Andrew Burnett's a good coach. But the longer this goes on, the more that conversation is going to come up. And you know, I said 5-10 games in, I thought the conversation was ridiculous. The fact that this continues to be happening 22 games into this is very concerning, and it does not bode well on Andrew Burnett right now.
YouTube chat Kurt, there's nothing to figure. This is who they are. There's no more figuring. There's no chemistry. This is who they are. Stop with this. Redemption says same thing. This is what they are. Unless there's a major shakeup in the roster behind the bench, team is going to play at this clip for the next 60 games. You don't know that, but I understand people thinking that. Sure. I mean, it's hard at this point when you've got a quarter of the season in. I mean, you have to kind of go with what the evidence is, and it's
the evidence is bad.
It's bad. It's not. I mean, it's not ambiguous. It's pretty clear. It's just still hard for me to believe.
Well, Marchessault, I thought, had a great game Saturday and then went back last night to basically just being invisible. Novak, I said at the time, people thought I was crazy. They shouldn't have signed him to a contract extension. He's not he's not that good. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't really care what the underlying numbers say on Tommy Novak. Watch the guy play. Like, he's not good. He's not built for the way they want to play, and he's an absolute no-show offensively. Ryan O'Reilly has not scored in the month of November still. I mean, there's I said this to you, I think, off the air last week. The most concerning part about all this to me, and last night he got chased from the game, but it wasn't really his fault. Saros playing great. Saros is playing great so far this year, and this is still how bad they are. Like, think about that.
Yeah, top 10 power play, best penalty kill, goalies pushing 920, and you're this bad. Just the age and some people falling off the cliff, which was something we talked about. Like, at some point, it will happen for some players, right?
Yeah.
Is it as simple as that?
Well, if that's what it is, we're in for a long few years here, I think.
Yeah,
because I just don't know that there's enough solutions with some of the younger guys coming fast enough to change that. Like, we talked about when you signed Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea, like, you're all in. And I know, like, Barry Trotz has talked about trying to, like, thread that needle of being all in and being a threat while bringing up some of the young guys. That's a really difficult thing to do.
Well, that works if you're good.
Yeah.
Because you have these picks and you do have some guys, but when you're this, then now you're looking at a barren time period.
It's a really difficult thing to do. And, we're almost 25 games in, and Brady Shea, I mean, he had another brutal turnover last night. He's just been terrible so far. Jonathan Marchessault has been bad. Stamkos has been good on the power play, 5-on-5. There's nothing going on offensively there. It's just they're in deep trouble right now. Deep, deep trouble.
No doubt. Caroline, you have a final word? Literally?
Wait, can I say something? Actually,
Hurry.
Okay. To all my haters, you're literally hating on a 14-year-old girl.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
Literally.
Parting shot.
Literally.
Caroline, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. Chase and Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.